Hi guys, it's Martin here from Westronics, and today's video I'm going to show you how to repair a Denso alternator fitted in Opels and SAABs. This video is the second part of the video which I've done already, and this repair is quite easy to do. Now guys, this is the alternator from our last video. As you can tell, it has the rectifier and the regulator removed from the back. You can see how to do it in the first part of the video. You can find the link in the description. Now, to change the bearing at the back and the slip rings, we have to take the back cover off simply by removing the 3 nuts holding the back cover. Now guys, we have our 3 nuts removed, and the next step is to just get the screwdriver and move the cover a bit. When the cover moves, a lot of times you can take it off with your hands, just like this. And this is our cover. We can put it away. Now inside of the cover there's a plastic cap, as you can see here. Just don't lose it, and remember to put it back. You can just leave it in the cover, just makes it easier. Now what we are going to do now is I'm going to show you how to take off the bearing from the shaft, and as well as that I have the regulator here. It's of the same alternator, and as you can see the brush there is broken off. I'm going to show you how to change brushes in them regulators in case if they are low. Now to take the bearing off the alternator, all what we need is just a simpler pullers. Now when you're pulling the bearing off this alternator, make sure the tip of the pullers it stays on the steel part of the slip ring, not on the plastic part. Unless you're changing the slip rings and you don't really care if they get damaged because you have the new ones. Now guys, to make it easier to take the bearing off, we are going to point the steel top of the shaft here, so it's going to be easier for our pullers to sit down on it. Now when we have this done, it's time to take the bearing off. We have our pullers here, and as you can see, because we have pointed the shaft, our pullers aren't simply slipping off from the top of the shaft. Bearing comes off quite easily. Now when we have our bearing removed, it's time to move on and remove the slip rings. Now to diagnose do the slip rings need changing or not, please have a look at the first part of the video where I'm describing and explaining how to tell the difference between a bad and good slip ring. Okay guys, to remove the slip ring, first of all we have to take off 2 wires. There's one here and one here. It's very simple. Just get the small screwdriver and you can open little holders there. As you can see, it comes off quite easy, and one wire remove. Now and here on the side, you can see it there now, you have to break off this little piece as well. Not necessarily break it off, but just open it a bit, because there's always a bit of a glue there. And pull your wire out. Just like that. And do the same thing on the other side of the slip ring. Now guys, we have our 2 wires loosened. Now to take off the slip ring, it's actually quite easy. You only need a vise. Now what you'll do is take your slip ring, you put it in the vise. Now don't squeeze the steel part, just the copper, just 2 copper parts, and lock a vise on it until you hear it cracking. Now turn the slip ring around and do it again on the other side. Now guys, when you have your slip ring squeezed, you want to get the flat screwdriver, and all what you need to do is you just need to tap it underneath the slip ring, and if you get the other screwdriver on the other side of the slip ring, when it lifts, the slip ring will just simply pop out like that. Now guys, the slip ring is off. Next thing you want to do is you just want to put a bit of oil here on the shaft where the slip ring is going to slide in, It's just going to make it easier to fit the slip ring. Now, this is our new slip ring. When you're going to be fitting it, just pay attention that these legs, this one here and the one on the other side, line up with them two slots. Slide the slip ring down onto the shaft. Get yourself a 10 socket, put down on the slip ring, and just tap it down. And just tap it down. Keep tapping it until you see that the plastic bottom of the slip ring have hit the top of the rotor there. Okay guys, now when the slip ring is down, what we want to do is we just want to push our two wires into the slots here. 1 and 2. Now the next step is to just lean them down. 1 here and 1 here. Now what you can do is close down 2 clamps. When we close down after 2 clamps, it's time to solder them. Just tiny drop of solder, not too much. A bit here and a bit on the other one. And that's it, our slip rings changed. Now guys, we have slip rings changed, it's time to fit the bearing back onto it. Now, if you're changing the bearing, it's very important to remember, it's not a standard bearing. These bearings in them particular alternators are special bearings. Inside diameter of this bearing is 0.2 millimeters narrower, which that means if you just go to a shop and you just buy a standard bearing like that and fit it onto the alternator, the center part will become loose on the steel shaft here and it will wear it away over time. I've seen a lot of cases when this happened because such a small difference isn't really measurable by a vernier or anything like that. It has to be a micrometer or some other professional measuring tool. So when you're buying a bearing for this, make sure it's the proper one for this particular model of the alternator. Now, and we're fitting the bearing simply by just sliding down here. We have a long 17 socket here and just give it a few taps. Now the good way of knowing that you have a proper bearing is when you're tapping it with the socket, you have to use a bit of a force, where if you have the incorrect bearing it will just simply almost fell down into it. Now when we have our bearing changed and our slip ring changed, I'm going to show you how to change the brushes in them regulators just in case if you need it. To know if the brush is too short, you just go back to the first part of this video, and in the previous video I'm explaining how to see if the brush is too long or if the brush is too short. Now to remove the brush from this particular regulator is actually quite simple. Now at the back here, see there's a little clip. All what you have to do is just simply lift the clip, and here there's 2 little slots, one here and one here. What you have to do is you just have to put the screwdriver there and just lift the slot open and take that off, and at the back here you can see where the wire from the brush is soldered onto this little square flat. Now if you have the brand new or genuine regulator, in some of them this brush is just simply fused in. All what you have to do is just have to break off the wire and that's it. But in this case we have to unsolder this. Now we have our brush unsoldered, and as you can see it comes out of the regulator, and there's a spring here as well. Now what we have to do now is just simply slide the spring onto the brush, and then what you have to do is you just have to simply slide the whole lot out, and as you can see, we see this little tail of the brush, we can call it lead, comes out of the back. Now, give you a tip. If you're doing it, it's very simple to just bend the lead over and squeeze it with the pliers. So then you can let it go and the spring won't push out the brush on you, and you can simply solder that on. And that's just what we're going to do. Just going to solder that. Bit of a temperature, bit of a solder. Don't overheat it too much, because if you will, the solder will run down the lead and it will harden the lead. Our brush is changed, and as you see, it's nice and free, and connection at the back is nicely done. Now we're going to put our cap back onto it now. Now we're going to put the cap back the same way how we took it off. Now brushes are changed, slip rings are changed, bearing is changed, everything is ready to put the cover back onto it. Now if this cap will fall out of the back cover, there are 3 little slots in the cap, around the cap as you see. So one here, one here, one here, and there is 4 slots inside where the bearing fits, where the cap fits. So just make sure the 3 little slots will go down in the cover, otherwise it's going to break the plastic. The bearing is going to break the plastic cap as you're going to be putting it back on it. Now when this is done, all what we have to do is, this is the heavy lug and this is the other part of the heavy lug, so just simply line it up, and as you're lining it, what you want to do, you want to line the phase wires, the 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, with them 3 plastic ends coming out of the bracket, 1 here and 2 of them here. Make sure the wires go out through them, and just simply push it down. It fits nicely into it. Now when the cover is down, all what you have to do is just tighten this and this 10 nuts and put the rectifier and regulator back onto it. Now you can see how to do it in the first part of the video. At the end of it, I just don't want to make this video too long. Guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope the video helped you. Please give us a like if you liked the video and subscribe to our channel for more, and stay tuned.